we started getting a lot of negativity when Ren beat Mikuru.
Okay.
But the fans don't know all of the truth of that fight. Hiramoto's just trash talking us on X and just tagging us in things on Instagram. And I just couldn't take it anymore. I texted Hiramoto and I said, okay, if you want to talk shit about me, let's meet. Say it to my face. And this is at 1 a.m. after the fights. And so Hiramoto sends me some nightclub he was at in Shibuya. And I take a photo of it out front. I'm like, Hiramoto, I'm here. And I'm ready. Like, my plan was to fight Hiramoto in the street in Shibuya on New Year's Eve.
How did it go with him when you met him?
If I were to give advice to Japanese fighters, I would say, don't go to the UFC. It's too hard. I can hear you great.
All right, cool. Let me just start recording.
Oh, I didn't realize you spoke such good English. Amazing.
My English is better than my Japanese.
Where are you from?
Japan.
Crazy.
I studied at an American school.
Oh, where'd you go?
In Chiba. There's a Tateyama. Do you know Tateyama by any chance?
No,
so it's
I don't.
way down at the very bottom. There was this American school, international school, where I think I was 10 when I was thrown in there. So there's a lot of halves and a lot of, well, full Americans too. But everyone speaks English. So that's where I just kind of learned how to speak English.
Man, I wish I would have known you when I was out in Japan. It would have made my experience a lot better. Because I didn't speak to anybody for a year.
Oh, that sucks. That sucks, man.
Yeah, it sucked.
If you're spending a year in Japan, your Japanese must have been, you can communicate at least up to that level.
Yeah, I could communicate a bit, but we had an interesting situation because when we were coaching there, we had a translator at JTT. And so he did a lot of translation, which kind of took away from, that's what he was asked to do, but it kind of took away from us being forced to learn.
Right.
And then also, with Kai at the time making the move to the UFC, he really wanted to learn English. So he was always trying to speak English. So it's not like we had a lot of interactions where our guys were trying to speak Japanese. They were trying to learn English as well.
Right. Okay.
So it's just kind of a situational thing.
That's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we're already recording. ここでちょっと休憩を入れて皆さんに紹介したいアイテムがあります。それはこちらです。楽天と Amazon 評価レビューNo.1の MyMoods ベープです。MyMoods ベープではフレーバーを19種類から選べられます。操作はめちゃくちゃ楽です。ポッドを入れて吸う。オンとオフのボタンもない。めちゃくちゃ楽ですよ。一箱にポッド入りでタバコに比べると約20箱分相当。めちゃくちゃお得です。味もかなり濃厚で本当に美味しい。ただ19フレーバーあってどの味を選べばいいのかって悩んでる方にはMyMoodsさんが僕のおすすめフレーバー3点セットを作ってくれました。で、格闘キャストとFamilytimeFTの視聴者さんたちのために半額クーポンコードを発行してくれました。MyMoodsさんありがとうございます。興味ある方は概要欄をチェックしてください。Konnichiwa, Billy.
Konnichiwa.
It's good to talk to you, finally.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a while. I think we've been going back and forth for maybe close to 6 months now.
Yeah, I was surprised when you originally shot me a DM. Because I cover and I follow a lot of Japanese MMA, so I knew about you and, you're JGT's coach. So I was surprised and happy.
Yeah, I think and I might not be reading this correctly, but I kind of was under the impression that maybe your show had kind of criticized JTT a little bit, or maybe different fighters from JTT, but I've never really gotten into the whole Japanese fandom drama too much. So I really didn't understand a lot of different criticisms that may or may not happen to different fighters. So when I watched your show, I saw the one where you commented on my interview with Gong Magazine.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt like you just gave a very honest, objective opinion. And I thought it was great. I enjoyed your show. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a little bit of how do you say, because of the popularity of the Mikuru brothers, anything I say that's slightly negative towards them gets a lot of hate, I guess.
For sure.
I think you've been on the receiving end a couple of times right now. So.
Many times.
So it's not really, I don't have anything against them, but I don't know if it's because I grew up around a lot of what they call gaikokujins in Japan. They're a little bit more open to speaking their mind. instead of like
Yeah.
being fearful of the opinions of others. So I kind of have that bad habit, I guess you could say, and then that's kind of just, you know, I get some flack, I get a lot of hate.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because when I was in Japan, I felt very like trapped by the opinions of fans because I couldn't speak to anybody. So I really would just see like auto-translated YouTube videos or like whatever was happening on X, which was either really positive or really negative. There wasn't really an in-between. And then when I came back to the States and I was back in, you know, the atmosphere of the UFC and kind of global MMA, I was like, it's all kind of a game. Like it felt more of like a game from my perspective. Now looking back at Japan, I was like, nothing's really as real or intense as it seems.
It's just, you know, internet chatter, but it's kind of, I mean, there's so many ways to look at it because I've been in it for so long. Like, I guess I got kind of numb to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not so active on X because it's kind of a cesspool of negativity in a way. I could say it doesn't affect me, but when I'm done like scrolling through and like reading stuff, even if it's not about me, you kind of have a little bit of anxiety a little bit.
Yeah.
So even though I say it doesn't affect me, it definitely affects me a little bit in certain ways. It doesn't put me in a positive state of mind for sure. So I stay away from it a lot most of the times, but it's where I get my news and my information as well. So I do go through it, and after taking some time off and going back on it, I'm going, what is this? But I mean, on the flip side, that's what MMA fans or just martial art fans in Japan, that's how they enjoy the sport in a way. It's kind of part of the entertainment.
It makes it cool. It makes it very fun, and it kind of allows for a different perspective. Like it makes the fights have character. You don't have to have the best fighters to make a really great fight and a really entertaining showcase. And like in the UFC, it's so much like dog eat dog. We want the best only. Yeah. Whereas the best fighters don't always make the most entertaining fights. Mm-hmm. And so with that drama that you can create in Japan, I think it really almost makes it like an anime a little bit, you know?
Right.
And also I think for a creator, and a lot of the fighters are also creators, you know, it's the fans jump on everything. So you can really make up a piece of content that will get a lot of views out of something that's so little. Like really doesn't matter that much.
Yeah. I want to get your take on that. I mean, I want to talk about the most recent Rizin and some of the UFC topics, but because you came over from working with the UFC, and I guess if you're in the States, what you look at as far as MMA goes is UFC. Right. And the UFC and Rizin, I mean, they're just so different the way they promote stuff and the way the fans look at the sport. Rizin, like you said, you don't have to be the best fighter. You can have a 50-50 record or even worse than that and still be one of the big stars in there, right? So was that like a little bit of a shock? Like, why is this guy popular?
My first big shock was we have guys in America that are 10-0. 10 wins, 0 losses in like very tough promotions like LFA or CFFC, like feeder promotions to the UFC. And they just cannot get the call to the UFC. They can't. And they're making no money. Like they make $2,000 a fight, which is nothing, right? And then you have guys like, I don't want to say anybody personally, but you have guys with really poor records that can go and be a kind of goofy on social media or on YouTube. And I know with sponsors, they're making 10 times that, 20 times that. And like, they aren't even in the realm of the same level of an athlete. Yeah. So it was just a transition for me. It's not that it was good or bad. I really enjoyed working in Japan and working with the fighters there. But I felt like I went from coaching high level pros and guys that wanted to be the best in the world and would sacrifice anything to do that, to coaching guys that really love the sport but are also entertainers. I felt like that was the difference.
Whenever I say this in Japanese, I get a lot of hate because it kind of just sounds like I'm condescending these guys, but it's not really that. It's just such a different concept. It's, I think, a little bit hard to, I mean, it was for me at least, kind of hard to accept. Like, I've gotten used to it, and like Rizin, the fact that they can do that is amazing. I say that in all positivity. Like, they can make a star out of an athlete of that level is amazing.
Oh, it's amazing. You look, I mean, you could go down the list of different guys that are like 1 in 3, but they're like, have tons of fans. Like, what? Or like, Yeah, I mean, you could go down the list of different names of just guys that really shouldn't belong in like one, and the thing is, Rizin is one of the world's biggest stages, undeniably. And then you have guys that are like YouTubers or influencers that aren't fighters, that haven't made a career in fighting, that are incredibly popular.
That's what's unique about the UFC, because boxing even, they have Jake Paul's coming in and doing kind of something similar to that.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
He draws big numbers, right? He draws more than the boxing champions. So it's kind of like that same concept going, but in Rizin. So, but within there, Rizin, they have some very, very strong fighters, right?
Amazing. They have some really amazing fighters. They do. They have some real talent, and so it's such a strange thing, because you'll get an incredibly high level fight, and then you'll get kind of a lopsided event, or also it's hard to tell too when you have guys in Rizin that are like super good kickboxers, for example, but they really have no proficiency in wrestling or grappling, and so they have a very exciting fight and an awesome fight, but then how does that compare to the rest of the world, because they couldn't really wrestle or grapple,
right?
Where in the UFC, that's such a grappling dominated fight style.
What do you feel about that concept for like the level of MMA? Because like you said, you don't have to be the best athlete to make it in Japan, as far as like make a living out of fighting.
For sure.
So the focus wouldn't be going to being the best fighter ever. It would be towards how can I support myself through fighting. I think a lot of people choose that route more than, trying to go for the UFC.
Yeah. And, my opinion changed actually when I first got to Japan. I was really hired, and my objective was to help Kai get to the UFC and then help support him and transition into wrestling a bit, so he could allow him to strike more in the UFC. Like, that's pretty much the gist of it. So my goal was like, wow, I have different connections in the UFC. I could definitely help a lot of fighters go over there. And that's kind of what I thought was what the point of having a guy like me move to Japan. And then, like as things went on, like I was trying to help different fighters, and, we had a group that was trying to help different fighters get, opportunities maybe in the States or in the UFC. And it really caused a lot of backlash, and it really caused a lot of different troubles. And then I realized that actually, if I were to give advice to Japanese fighters, I would say, especially if you're already in Rizin or you're in deep and doing well and you have a future in Rizin, don't go to the UFC.
Right.
You'll live a better life staying in Japan and fighting in Japan and having your Japanese fans, and don't go to the UFC. It's too hard.
Right.
That's what I would say. My honest advice is, if you're a Japanese star, stay in Japan. Unless your heart dream is to be a UFC champion.
Right.
If that's the case, then go for it. But other than that, yeah, there's no need.
But at the top of let's say if you have the potential to make it to the top in the UFC, the rewards are far greater than, let's say, making it to the top of Rizin. What do you think?
Well, I think it also depends on the dynamic. Like, I think there's a big disproportionate swing between certain stars. So you could have stars in Japan that have incredible sponsorship and support, and then probably can leverage different businesses in the future by staying in Rizin, versus in the UFC, like, your big sponsor money is not going to come until you have a name for yourself. So I think it's case by case for sure. Because I'm sure you could think of some Japanese champions that are or very good Japanese fighters in Rizin that probably don't make that much money in sponsorship in proportion to like the Asakura brothers or a Hiromoto Ren or whoever is getting the big sponsor money, So I think proportionately it's different, versus the UFC. If you're fighting for a title, you're going to make $500,000 minimum if you fight for a title. And if you're a champion, you're making $1 million minimum. So you know what the proportions are.
Right. I mean, just to get to the championship fight is quite a, high hurdle.
In the UFC, yeah, it's the Olympics. It's the peak of the peak. I mean, it's the greatest fighting moment you could have in the sport.
Yeah, so in that sense, all respect to Asakura Kai. He was, the Rizin champ. He could have stayed in Rizin, done his thing there, but he wanted to, shoot for the UFC, test himself there. Yeah. So I really like Asakura Kai. I mean, a lot of people, think I'm a hater, but I really do like him because the fact that he went to the UFC. Right now, he's not on a super, good path. Let's say, like he's had some rough fights, but I do hope he does really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for the sport. Like, it's good for the sport. It's good for Japan if he does well. I mean, I think everybody, whether they're a fan or not, in Japan should support Kai.
Yeah.
They should support Horiguchi. They should support Tetsuro. I think all of those guys. And the unique thing about Kai is he's ultra popular in Japan, and he's like incredibly dynamic and exciting in his striking. So he's not the best all-rounded fighter. I mean, we've seen that his wrestling and his grappling really struggle. You know, especially in his last fight, just seemed to be kind of not there in the wrestling and grappling. I thought he did better in the Pantoja fight, but I thought his striking in the Tim Elliott fight looked great in the first round. So yeah, I think it's really challenging, and it was amazing that, you know, that he had the courage to go over to the UFC and he wants to challenge the world and become a world champion. And, you know, I wish all the luck to him. I hope he accomplishes whatever his goals are.
The wrestling aspect of MMA, I think because America, a lot of fighters have a wrestling backbone or background. But in Japan, not so much. A lot of people actually
different style.
Definitely, if you're a striker, you start from like karate. But is it like something you have to start as a child to develop that wrestling, like that good, strong wrestling base?
You know, I don't think so. Like, for example, I worked with Weili Zhang. I worked with Alexa Grasso. I worked with Khalil Roundtree. I've worked with a bunch of different guys guys and girls, sorry, that don't have a wrestling backbone. I think the biggest concept truly is transition time. And I think one of the biggest problems Japan has is, first, Japan is like a country of perfection, right? You go anywhere in Japan, it's perfect. Hospitality is great. Service is great. And that all trickles down to sport. And so when you think of kickboxing, Japanese kickboxing, it's excellent. You think of Japanese freestyle wrestling, it's excellent. You think about Japanese jiu-jitsu, at one time it was very excellent. It's not as strong as it was, but at one time it was very excellent. The problem is the transition. The tough thing is knowing when to mix your strikes with your level changes to allow you to wrestle, to mix your wrestling with your hip position, head position, to know when to change to grappling. And so what I challenge you to do is watch a bunch of different Rizin fights and look at the times where the fighters stop between a wrestling transition and a grappling transition. And it really opens up your mind to, like, it's almost like they just don't have the instinctual flow of the fight game. And so I wouldn't say that, like, yeah, American wrestling's strong and American wrestling is good for MMA, but it really comes down to the ability to transition and keep motion going.
Is that just the repetitions that are lacking?
Yeah, you know, and I don't know if it was the training style. When I was coaching in Japan, it was really hard. I felt like I only showed like 10% of what I could have done as a coach. And I don't know if that was the language or the learning style, or, you know, I'm sure I certainly take responsibility for that. Like that was a hard hurdle for me to get over. But yeah, it's repetition, it's mindset in training. It's to know, like, hey, I need to drill technique with you, but I need to give you enough of a feeling to make it feel and look real. But I need to let you still accomplish what we're drilling. And then we need to do that 100 times. And then we need to, I call it play wrestling, where we're going to wrestle and grapple with submissions live, but there's no muscle involved. So if I get to a position where I have to, like, force it with my muscle, well, then I have to stop. I have to transition. And then that allows me to get to my sparring, you know. And that progression was very, very challenging to teach the guys in Japan.
Right. I mean, it must be hard, especially for people who aren't as efficient in wrestling as you are.
Well, and also freestyle wrestling versus American wrestling. Freestyle wrestling in Japan is incredible. Like, you guys have world champs, Olympic champs, undeniably amazing. But for MMA, American wrestling, I think, is better because there's a top and bottom component where you can't lock your hands and you have to control somebody. So in American wrestling, if I take you down, you're trying to stand up and get away from me. I'm trying to hold you down. The longer I hold you down, the more points I get. It's all based on control. And on top of that, I'm not allowed to touch my hands together. So that aids to MMA because now I'm learning how to control you with my hips in one hand, and I can punch you with another hand, or I can set up a submission with another hand. So that's where I'd say American wrestling I think it's the best backbone for MMA.
Right.
In the UFC, at least.
It transitions to MMA very well. I mean, you kind of touched on your coaching in Japan. It's kind of been a recent trend in Japan where if the fighter loses, the coach gets a lot of flack. And if they win, well, the coaches don't get any praise. It's kind of a new thing that happened in Japan, like Nasukawa Tenshin. He had his first loss to, Itakuma, and then his gym and his coaching staff, they got some flack for that. And with you and Ellie, it kind of started from there too. So I mean, it's good in a way, but it's bad in a way. It's good that the coaches are actually known. Like, people actually know them. Like, they're actually a personality, which is kind of shows how much the sport has grown. But it's a little bit sad when the coaches get flack because, obviously they're a team with the fighters, so they are responsible, but they can only do so much, right? They're not
For
fighting,
sure. And it's a little bit different, like, in the States, and obviously I can't speak Japanese, so maybe this happens, but like American fighters really take a lot of responsibility. And so, like, when fighters lose, 9 times out of 10, now it does happen, but fighters are never there to blame their coach. They're never there to point fingers. Fighters often take responsibility, and then they're also very humble in winning. So, like, if you notice in the UFC, you hear a lot of, I couldn't have done this without my managers or without my coaches or without whomever. But yeah, in Japan, the trash talk is intense for sure. And like coming out to the coaches is intense. But at the same time, like in Ellie and my position, we started getting a lot of negativity when Ren beat Mikuru.
Okay.
But the fans don't know all of the truth of that fight. I never coached Mikuru. Maybe one time I coached Mikuru the 6 months I was there before that fight. I never worked with him. Ellie didn't really work with him. And so we were in this position where like they brought in foreign coaches and we were put in as his seconds in his corners, but we really probably shouldn't have been.
Right.
So we got kind of a lot of flack and a lot of criticism for a product that wasn't really ours. So that's what kind of started it. And then Kai lost. And it was, it kind of just kept going from there. So it was anytime a JTT fighter lost, it was like, okay, well, Billy and Ellie are the worst coaches ever. And then, Hiramoto likes to really add on the drama. And here's, I told you I have a funny story. I'll give you my funny story from this.
Okay.
It was New Year's Eve 2 years ago. So not this one, but the one before.
Right.
And I think we had like Gomio fought, Kyoma fought, and Seika fought. I think it was those 3. And I don't even remember who lost. Maybe Kyoma lost to Motoya, but I don't remember. Seiko obviously won. And then Gomio won that, like, it was a very boring fight with Hakata. Hiramoto's just trash talking us on X and just tagging us in things on Instagram. And I didn't understand Japanese culture of like, it's kind of just entertainment. I didn't understand that. I've actually talked to Hiramoto about this. So it'll be funny to get his opinion because, we're able to communicate and we're cool. But I texted Hiramoto and I said, okay, if you want to talk shit about me, let's meet. Say it to my face. And this is at 1 a.m. after the fights. And so Hiramoto sends me some nightclub he was at in Shibuya. And mind you, like, I'm not very good on my phone, and I hadn't really used the train system at all in Japan at the time. And so I'm like, it was cold out, and I was like, screw it, I'm gonna walk to the club. So I walked like 2 miles to this club in the cold, and I take a photo of it out front. I'm like, Hiramoto, I'm here, and I'm ready. Like, I'm gonna fight this guy in the street. Like, I'm sick of this. No one's standing up for me. None of the guys at JTT are like, Billy or Ellie are good. They're not like defending people talking shit. And I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I went, my plan was to fight Hiramoto in the street in Shibuya on New Year's Eve.
How did it go with him when you met him?
He didn't come out. He was in the club.
Oh, what?
Yeah, he didn't come out. And, and obviously later I was able to speak with him and he's like, it was good for the situation. And that's why,
It's not
it was more so to get, it wasn't personal. It wasn't, but it felt very personal to me.
Right. I have Hiramoto on a couple of times. I get him on sometimes. So, I mean, he does a lot of shit talking, but it is not out of pure spite. I feel like it's kind of just people expect it of him at this point.
It's part of the show, and I'm sure it's part of his character. I'm sure he is like that, but I think at the core of it, I think he's a good guy. All the guys I've met in Japan are all generally good guys.
It's just part of SNS, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a really fine line there. I talk a lot, I take videos pretty much every day. So obviously you're responsible for your words, but like you can't keep track of like every single thing I say. And if I say like a bad joke and then someone like takes it out and just like puts it on X, especially I kind of had that thing recently. You said you don't follow like MMA drama that much, right?
Right.
Do you know my situation with Seika?
Yeah, you call her ugly or something.
Okay. I was like, if you didn't know and I kind of had you on and then you got flack for it, that would suck and I would hate that. So I like, okay, just making sure. Yeah, but you know, it's a joke. Like it's a bad joke. And then if you just take that part out, it's horrible. But like I'm like,
right.
You know, yeah, she's kind of ugly. You know, I'm just kidding, you know, kind of thing. But like that shit's not in there. So
yeah, you know, and it's just what people like take from it, right? Everybody takes the little clips of everything, and you know, and at the same time, like the fighters have the right to say what they want and be criticized, and like just as much as you as a commentator or a podcaster can or YouTuber can go out and say your opinion, and you create content for the sport, which is positive, they can do the same thing, you know? So it is what it is. You know, certain things like in what you just used to, like in the States is like, I mean, for example, if this has happened at, you know, Manel and Makayev, we're talking trash on SNS, and like Manel headbutted Makayev and split his head open before their fight.
Oh,
like that's real. Like guys in America, like, or even Ellie told me in France, like that stuff doesn't fly. Like it's, we're gonna fight. You're gonna talk about my family or me personally and my character. It's like, okay, we'll fight right when I see you, you know? So just different culture.
Right. But then within there's like the Kobe Covingtons.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the nuance of like the language, like I can listen to Colby and I know it's all nonsense.
Right.
It's not real. But then certain guys, when they talk trash, it's like, oh no, that's real. He means that, you know. Like a good example is Dan Hooker and Patty Pimlet are currently in a beef right now on SNS. And what they're saying is like, they mean what they're saying. Like they're going to fight each other. So I think that's probably the nuance in the language and different things too.
Right. I guess it would be even harder if you don't speak the language like Japanese.
For sure. For sure. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you also had some, you know, good experiences in Japan. How do you like Japan, by the way? How did you like Japan?
You know, I had a lot of excellent experiences in Japan. You know, overall, like, you know, I wish the situation at JTT had gone differently. At the end, I just, you know, Ellie had left, and then, you know, I was asked to, he was asked to stay as well, and he chose not to. And then I was asked to stay, and I did the same. I chose not to. And I think it was just really hard. Like, it was a great situation. It had all the potential. And I think, you know, the reason why it's been hard emotionally for me to deal with was because I moved there with the intention of living in Japan for a while and building a culture there and trying to really build champions. Like that was my 100% my goal. And I guess when I reached a point where I didn't feel like I had any allies on my side to do that, I'm very blessed. Like I have a big team in America. I coach a bunch of guys in the UFC, and like I was with guys that really felt like they wanted to become champions and make it to the next level. And that's why, you know, I came home. So I came back to the States for that reason. So, but Japan in general, I think, you know, Japan's a beautiful country. I really love how safe it is. You know, in a perfect world, I'd still be there, and I would have liked to live there. I would have loved to learn the language and integrate it as much as I could with the culture, but you know, it just wasn't in my cards. It just is what it is.
Right. It's sad. It's a little bit of a waste because I think a lot of Japanese MMA fighters, especially the young ones coming up, could have used you as a coach and learn from your experiences. Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad.
You know, if I would have gone to Japan, I would have to open my own gym.
I see.
Because I don't know Japanese culture, and when it comes to building champions, I'm not here to get involved in Japanese culture. I'm here to build champions. And so like the different politics within a gym, there's no way for me to learn them without knowing the language and without knowing the culture. So that was the toughest part, you know?
Yeah. It's not something you could just learn in a couple of years of living there.
No.
Like even me, I live in Japan, and I kind of, you know, I've been into a lot of gyms, but even I'm like, that's just, I don't get it. You know, like, so like
it's tough. It's very tough. It's very tough. You know, and it works for like certain things, right? Like again, at one point, the jiu-jitsu in Japan was very strong. Now, like kickboxing is very strong. Wrestling's very strong. The MMA industry is just like still so like in the shadows, kind of. I think it's going to take some time, but you know, with more Japanese fighters making it to the UFC, and with Rizin, I still putting on great shows. It's just a matter of time that it'll grow into something big, and I think there are some great MMA gyms in Japan. I think, just from what I've heard, and it seems like Miyata-san down at Brave Gym runs an excellent gym. If I were to be a fighter, that's probably where I would train. Or Tribe Tokyo seems to have a great group. That's a place there I could see myself training. So, and then obviously whatever Tetsuro's got going down in Okinawa, I think is excellent. So, I think that there are some emerging places.
It'll be interesting to see how things turn out there. So I could talk to you forever about your experience in Japan, and this interview is not going to go anywhere. But,
yeah, sorry.
No. I enjoy this kind of conversation. So, but I'm not so much sure about my fans.
Well, fire away. Whatever questions you got for me.
All right. So I want to talk to you about the most recent Rizin.